Good morning.
Today,
Here we go.
Started recording the meeting. Hi, Coach. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you? Are you doing better?
I am, Coach. I am. There's some
Great.
mild flu thing going around, so it's bothering everyone, I think.
Yeah, it's the same here. I mean, we have a lot of lung infections and flu. Yeah.
So we have folks from all the different groups, and
hmm
yeah. So just an open to all kind of a meeting, Coach. Just for folks to catch up with
Oh
you,
yeah.
um, just have some discussions.
hmm
So it's been a while that we've started coaching, and most of them have been training for at least 6 months to a year now, if not more. Um, Maybe we can start off with a couple of things that folks are doing right and a couple of things that folks are not doing right, like what they could work upon to get to the next level.
hmm Sure. Should we wait another 2 minutes, maybe?
Sure.
Or is
A few folks might be joining, but anyway, I've recorded the meeting, so I'll be sending out the videos to everyone.
Excellent. Good. Well, so things that are good, things that are bad, or are yeah, especially from the not from the workout side itself, because I see a lot of workouts being done exactly as prescribed, but I think the surrounding is important as well, and I think if I'll explain a bit on how the body works at different times of the day, I think that brings a little bit more insight to why do workouts sometimes are or seem workouts sometimes too hard, and maybe on other days you think, well, that was not easy but challenging, but really doable, right? So the challenges you have are basically manifold, because I mean you got extreme heat, right? Sometimes extreme humidity as well with all that. So the climate is one big thing, right? And then there is, because of that as well, there is the time of the day you are performing the workouts. Um, so challenging workouts. Let's define challenging workouts. So whenever we go above threshold, um, that's when we need to have our energy systems or our energy level really high, right? And that's most of the time not the case when you are doing a workout in the morning hours. So why is that? Because I mean the body is repairing itself. So even if the muscles were fueled the last days, and especially the day before, um, there might be full glycogen stores in the muscles. However, for example, the liver has low energy state concerning glycogen levels, and blood sugar levels might also not be high enough. And now it depends on how you start with your breakfast, when the time of breakfast is, and then when the workout starts. So just to make it easy for you, I mean, starting with low stores in the liver doesn't mean that you cannot do punchy workouts, but it just won't hold up for a really long time, right? Because if we go above threshold for a certain time, we know that basically almost all of the energy, if not all of it, comes from glycogen, right? So you're burning it down really, really fast. And we experience that by the burn in the muscles, which is actually not the lactate, but the lactate is going up with it. So those are the ions and giving us the acidity in the muscle. That's how we feel that. Okay, that's how you can feel when you burn loads of carbs and loads of glycogen. So in states of burning a lot, we need to refuel as well. So where does it come from? Well, first of all, it needs to go through the stomach and then into the tract where it all gets into our bloodstream as well, and can be used thereafter or can be stored, right? So if you do it in the morning hours, those hard workouts, you might experience that maybe a few sets are going right and a few sets won't go right. What helps is refueling it right away from the start. So once you exercise, you need to eat, and having a breakfast half an hour before a workout is probably not a great idea, because now you have eaten quite a bit of breakfast, and then it needs to get through the stomach and then be well, and then it will go to the bloodstream. But you probably, if you eat too much, you feel full, and it's not available at that time, just because of how the body works. So I would say, if you do it in the morning hours and you only had half an hour for breakfast, then don't have breakfast at all. Not to send the body into the anabolic state where it wants to suck up the energy and not give you energy. Then don't have breakfast at all. Delay the breakfast, hop on the bike, then start pedaling, and after 5 minutes, go ahead and take whatever, like a banana or stuff which you can easily digest during the warm up, and then start eating. Because what you do now is, first of all, in the cells, I won't go into detail, but the energy can be pulled much better in the cells during the workout, to the muscle cells. And while eating, you basically just get to that 60 to 80 grams of carbs per hour to enable the gut to really get the energy and suck it into first the bloodstream and then right away into the working muscle. And that would be, I think, the best thing to do if you want to do a, let's say, VO2 plus workout in the morning hours. And that's what I see most, honestly, in the workouts. If you start, you see, okay, I can manage to get the power up for a while, but then you fade out basically, and it's just the unavailability of enough carbs, because you're burning them like crazy. Yeah, that's the most common mistake. Talking to some of your athletes, it's also, again, the nutrition side, right? Let's put that old knowledge aside where it said, well, start pedaling, right, 2.5 hours, right? And then if you feel really hungry, well, then eat stuff, right? Since you all now have a great fitness level, which means you do great power numbers, what a power number actually is, it's just energy per time. That's the basic definition of it, right? So energy per time, energy per hour, let's speak about that one. So you really know how much calories you did burn per hour. And if you starve your body to a point where actually the central governor, so the head, the brain, senses, hey, energy levels drop, blood sugar levels drop, they won't come up anymore as I need it, then you'll feel it through motivation, you feel it through hunger. And if you start eating, then you'll never get them up to a level where you can hold that high power you can. So now we basically are on the other spectrum of the fitness, on the long-term fitness, right? That's why it hurts so much if you starve for the first 2 or 2.5 hours, and then you go ahead and start eating. That's why it hurts so much in the last part of the ride. To avoid that, even if now the ride is way below our threshold and we're just doing tempo endurance maybe, still start to eat, and start to eat early, like after 15 minutes again, start to eat a little bit all the time. And you see that the energy level will stay high, so power will stay high, and it's also a way more enjoyable ride because the central governor, so brain again, doesn't have to tell you, hey, stop, why are you doing this? This sucks. Weather is also not nice, and you feel all those senses, right? It's just the brain telling you, hey, stop it because I want to have the energy sources you are burning in the muscles. That's the whole thing. So mainly, honestly, you can cope a lot of things which go wrong in a workout with just a good nutritional strategy. And I hope that clears out a bit on why some workouts, why some easy workouts feel hard, but also why some harder efforts workouts are not so sustainable for you. And that's the most things I see. What works nice is, and you all know that if even looking at the working schedule or hearing about your working schedules, consistency was really good. Yeah, it came up really, really nicely. And I think most of the guys seeing still improvements after months and months of training. It's just the consistency of the training you're doing. Yeah, and it's your work done, right? I put out the workouts, but it's your work which you put into yourself and the training.
Thank you, coach. So yeah, like you said, most of us do ride very early in the morning. So for those who ride outside, for instance, they start at, let's say, 4 in the morning. Um, they don't really have time to eat because they have to wake up at 2:30 or something if they want to eat at 3 o'clock. So you're saying that while they're riding, it's better for them to consume food early, like 30 to 45 minutes into the ride, and then continue doing so, about 60 to 80 grams of carbs per hour for the workouts.
Correct, yeah. And it's, I mean, just go in a little bit into detail. The muscle cells, you all know insulin, right? And insulin is like, plays a big part in transporting the glycogen into the muscle, and into the muscle cell. So actually, insulin opens up the cell and just lets the energy it has in his backpack, lets the energy in, travels again, gets another pack of energy, and delivers it again. That's how it works in a resting body, basically. When we exercise, the gates of the cells, of the muscle cells, will open up. So if they see energy in the bloodstream, they're able to get out the energy without having the insulin. Insulin still is an opener, but it gets more transparent, basically, the cell. So it can suck the energy better inside, and it doesn't need to rely on the insulin level. And that's basically the thing you want to do. Yeah, get the carbs or the glycogen level up in the bloodstream to enable that pull of the cell. And that's what you do while eating in a moving state, in a working muscle state.
Thank you, coach. One other.
And on the contrary, you all know that anabolic state, because have a big breakfast in the morning and try to exercise half an hour later. It kind of feels weird for another 10 to 20 minutes, right? That's when we all feel that we need an extended warm up, and that's basically the switch of the body, which it performs, which goes or it then goes from the anabolic to the catabolic state. So to let the energy flow out, and it's basically like a big switch inside the body. So that's the whole difference, and that's why I wouldn't eat the big breakfast before, but I would start eating on the bike, or like in close vicinity, like let's like we did on the camps as well, right? Have the breakfast, but then really sit on that bike, do the 15-minute warm up, and then also continue eating. Mm-hmm.
Understood, coach. Yeah, I think most people are following pretty decent nutrition these days, especially before the races. You know, we plan to eat 1.5 hours before, and a good meal. You know, like something that's got oats and something that's sustainable, bananas and things like that. So easy to process as well. And then again, before the ride, we probably consume something small, something that gives us energy. And while we race, you know, a gel or something like that as well if we need it. If it's a longer race, obviously we'll carry more food, more electrolytes as well. The other thing is, most of these riders, they are kind of, you know, they are focusing on racing and, you know, participating in events, not just in Chennai, but, you know, across different parts of India. And one thing that we notice is most of the other teams that come, they kind of put in a lot of volume in terms of hours on the saddle. So for this group over here, I know we get a long endurance ride or an endurance and tempo type of ride on Saturdays and Sundays. Is it okay for us to increase the duration and do more time in tempo, more time in endurance, more volume? Yes. Okay. So essentially you're saying it's okay if we go above the stipulated time frame that's given. So let's say you've given us 2.5 hours, and if we do 4 hours, it's not a bad thing at all, right?
Not a bad thing at all, and basically I want that. It's just in a group scheme to put out a ride for 4.5 hours, right? Everybody goes like, he's nuts. That's why I didn't do it. Basically, I just give you like, I would more say like the minimum time, right? And that's a great point as well on looking at how the discussions worldwide go now with the zone 2 training, which actually isn't the zone 2 we are talking about in power training, because then the zone 2 would like go into more into tempo and the sweet spot, even close to a threshold region. Okay, so it's not saying that all like the pros, if you hear it, they do a lot of zone 2 training. Well, obviously they can't race all the hills up in the training like crazy, right, and above threshold all the time. So guess what they accumulate? Well, it's time below threshold at a pace of around the tempo pace, right? And that's the same thing, right? So if you want to increase, yeah, doing a lot more harder rides probably is only increasing fatigue at that point. And you need to recover longer. So that's why I don't have anything against riding, especially even if we have the high intensity rides. If you put it at the end, it's very beneficial to do some extra kilometers in endurance. And those are definitely not those wasted miles we always talk about, right? Because it actually makes sense to do high intensity and followed by endurance. That's also another push into both systems. So it's even if you see on my workouts, most of the time you see that what the concentration, what the basic main topic of the workout will be, but it's really beneficial to, even after HIIT training, do some of the endurance work for sure. Yeah.
Thank you, coach. So the next question I have for you is, some of these guys are racing as a team when they go to these events. how do we train as a team? So for instance, yes, we ride and do the workouts together, and we do our zones, right? So let's say you've given us, over unders. We'll do the workouts based on our power numbers, but how do we incorporate that as a team, like as a bunch of, let's say, 4 or 5 people, or maybe, even 2 to 3 people? How do they do rotations? How do they incorporate that as a team?
Yeah, that's a tough one. if you're from a power perspective close to each other, it's an easy one, because now durations to pull and stuff like that, it's basically comes, first of all, most of the time, if everybody's almost even, it comes natural, and yeah, it's a lot easier. Having a team with kind of power differences within the riders, that's a tough one, right? So I suggest sit down together, check out what your power profiles look like, and the Training Peaks is a great tool for that. And don't over. I mean, the thing is, the best performing rider, right? He could either pull for super long, and that might be the trick there, to let him pull a little bit longer, because he's also able to sustain those efforts more often, instead of having him do his best effort and nobody can follow, right? So you need to basically balance it out, and I think increasing durational pulls with the best rider is the thing to do, and maybe that's what you experience probably most. It's the higher power guy who will lead the team anyway to the finish line. Um, but it's a real tough one. Just think about the power numbers first, and then try to manage the duration of the pulse itself. If you do like a team time trial, for example.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? Please go ahead, guys. I had a few which I wanted to ask.
Hey, can I go?
Yes, please go ahead, Ashwin.
Yeah, sorry for the noise. I'm driving right now, but Coach, I had a question about cadence actually. So, do you think there is a really high cadence? This comes from, so I usually train at around 85 to 90, but then on the ITT the other day I did about 102. I was hitting the target power levels, but then somebody suggested that I should bring the cadence down to about 90 to 95 to get more speed. Is it really so?
To gain more speed is not the correct the correct wording I would use, but always see the cadence in comparison with the power. And there's a great study out there which included sprinters, which are on the on one side with massive amounts of fast switching fibers, right? Or like more fast switch fibers than slow twitch fibers. And they also had time trialists, and even some guys performing at around 2 to 3 hours, right, in their rides, having about a 2 to 3 hour events for themselves. So predominantly those have those slow twitch fibers, right? And then only on top the fast switchers. And what they experienced is that both groups actually, it didn't matter if you're in group A or group B, but the cadence itself is still dependent on the power number. So the higher power, the more cadence you need. And look at the pros doing 400, 450 an hour, right? They pedal around in between the 90s to 100s. And that's what you should do too. even if it's not your threshold. But riding at around 400, 100 cadence would be good. So if you did that on the other day, first of all, get a protein. Second of all, you did everything right. But since I guess you didn't do 400 watts, it was too fast. It was too fast. So go down with the cadence. Ballpark numbers, I mean, 400 watts do like 100. 300 watts do like 90. 200 watts, if you do 75 to 85, is a good range. So for you, I would say, well, don't go above the 90, except you only if you do efforts above threshold. That's what the basic guideline would be from my side. Yeah, and the reason is basically you use more of fast twitch fibers if you pedal faster, because there are two theories out there. One is Hahnemann's principle. That guy was called Hahnemann, and he found out that if a muscle is contracted and the force the muscle creates, right, or the demanded force, honestly. So you have a certain weight, right, and you want to pull that up. Then first of all, the slow twitch fibers start their work, right? They are not the most powerful muscles, but they are long lasting. So it totally makes sense for the body to say, well, if it's only a lightweight, I could do that forever, right? So, and that's what we experience in life, right? So lightweight, we can pull that up forever. My pen, I can hold up 1,000 times, no problem. Now, if I start to pull up 10 kilogram, different story, right? So what the muscle does is first use the slow twitch fibers, and if the muscle sees, well, it's not enough, then it uses fast twitch fibers as well. And only with that principle, if you look at pedaling, if you only had that principle and force is only guided by the amount of pressure we need on the pedal, which is force, right? Then everything would be right. If you do, if you say, well, only if I pedal super forcefully, so with low cadence, I get to my fast twitch fibers. But now the second principle comes in, and that's also why the fibers are called that way. Fast twitch fibers are for fast movements and movement patterns. So if we pedal at around 100 with no need for it, we use more fast twitchers than we need to, honestly. And that's why you should shift to a slightly lower cadence, and it'll do you good, and you actually use more of those longer lasting fibers. Yeah, that's the well, best explanation for that.
Got it. Thank you.
Hi, Coach. Aaron here. Coach, some of us have a TT bike. So the workouts that you give us on a weekly basis, example, the endurance and the tempo workouts that you give, or sometimes even tempo with threshold, we tend to do it on the TT bike depending on how the events are being lined up. So on the TT bike, sometimes we're just not able to hit the power numbers at all. Example, if you say 185 or 190 is threshold, doing 185 or 190 for 20 minutes on the TT bike is actually tough on the TT position. So what would be a fair number in terms of road bike versus TT bike, in case we have to do the same workout that you've given us?
Mm-hmm. So, and you also do the workouts sometimes indoors on the TT bike, right?
Yes, Coach. I do some of the workouts indoors because
Correct.
with Chennai, the weather is a bit dodgy off late.
Yeah. So the thing about the indoor versus outdoor, we all know that it's kind of tougher on us, right? So we need to sweat a lot more because the flowing air is missing. So obviously, the power numbers are slightly lower indoors as well. Now with the TT position comes the different angles on the leg muscles as well. So you can expect, I mean, our aerodynamic behavior now it also changes the power a bit, and you know that for sure. If you get really down and really narrow, we might lose some watts, right? But in outdoor conditions, against the wind probably, it's more beneficial to duck a bit more than to produce that extensive power we would need, because we are then basically set above our limits, right? So it's a good compromise on the TT bike. Now, concerning the workouts, if you can reach, for example, threshold workouts, yeah, you want to reach your threshold, but being more aero helps us as well. So training on a TT bike indoors is not too bad, but it might end up you losing 10 to 15 watts. Don't worry. Don't worry. You're training in the right position and everything is good. Would I do it all the time? 50% of the time is fine, but all the other times, probably I would try to increase the power if I train indoors, do it on the road bike, being aware that I can now produce more power or be closer to the threshold than I would, and being also aware that I am used to the position since I did the last workout in the TT position. Why is that? First of all, again, higher powers. I expect higher powers. And second of all, the TT position outdoors is a little bit more comfortable, honestly, because of the wind, because of the effects you notice, and because now you're actually going more aerodynamic. Because on a stationary bike, aerodynamic, there is zero aerodynamics, right? So that's the whole difference. So your body is not supported by the wind, and it's just a different feel, and you know that for sure. So do 50% of the workouts indoor on the TT bike and the other ones outdoor. Going above threshold and doing VO2s. I mean, VO2 is the maximum I would do in a close to TT position. I wouldn't use my best TT position. I would still get up a little bit more. And having said that, I wouldn't do it all the time, because it makes no sense, right? You're not getting used to that real time trialing position at that point. So I would rather do then an endurance workout every once in a while on the TT bike with the correct, or at least in times with the correct positioning, and then just get up every once in a while. Again, because your body weight is not supported in a way that it would outdoors. And yeah, that's how I would play it. So do it on the TT bikes for a certain amount of times, but don't do a anaerobic capacity on a TT bike. Makes no sense. Or in a TT position, at least. You can do it on a bike, maybe, but the angles should be better on the road bike for those kind of workouts. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, coach. Thank you, because I think we had this conversation last time also.
Yeah,
you said that if we have long breaks between TT and road races, it's good to do endurance on the TT bike every now and then.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's also about your how often do you do workouts, right? How often did you see your TT bike?
Yes.
Meeting it every once in a while and having the correct position on it is great, but overdoing it is sometimes also, yeah, you start having some issues on the lower backs, and it's just because it's not the outdoor world in that point.
Sure, coach. Because sometimes our events also keep switching. We do either Mercs or road races and our ITTs, but I think now after this, it's going to be a lot of ITTs that's going to come up. we don't have a road race, I think, until October or November. So the next 3-4 months is going to be a lot of ITT. So I just wanted to get some clarity on that. And Coach, I have one more question though. So this is a little bit in terms to do with pacing. Now, with whatever. Yeah, Prasad. Prasad. I'm in between. Can I just finish the question?
Hello.
Yeah, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Coach. So yeah, in terms of pacing, now with all the workouts that we have done and all of that, yes, our power has increased, and I think even our TTE has increased. If I'm not wrong, we're able to hold threshold for a much longer time. But how do we exactly go about pacing? Like when to actually go explosive? Because what I've noticed during ITTs is that when we finish, I somehow still feel there are some parts of the races where I think I could have put some more, in the sense like we sometimes feel the pacing is a little off. Either the first 2-3 minutes have been really hot, or we've started well, but in between like 2-3 minutes we had to back it out a little bit, just a tempo, just to recover and then go out again. So with ITTs, we still haven't, I don't know, I still haven't got the ideal pacing yet in terms of for ITTs as well. Do I really start real slow, build it up, and then finish on a high, or start at tempo threshold, hold threshold towards the end, and probably last 5 minutes try hitting VO2 or anaerobic? Or do I finish with a flurry? So that pacing part of it has been a little dodgy of late.
Okay. So honestly, the TTs should be the easiest because now you know how to work around the threshold, right?
Yes.
Correct. So try to divide your ride all the time in half. So at the start of a 40K, for example, you see the hour, right? And then you start probably a little bit below your threshold, because most of the time, right, and most of you right now are in between the 40 minutes around the threshold mark, right? So start a bit below, just to give the time for the body to basically reach that equilibrium, right? To know, okay, this is how much energy I need to produce at that time, and it's just basically how to groove the body in a bit. So that's what I would use for the 2 minutes. And then I would ramp it up to close to, for the 40K now in your case, to close to threshold, but still a tad bit below, right? And then, since it's around a 1 hour, we calculate at a half hour mark. Try to get a feel. How did that feel, right? And then you can increase a bit or go down a bit. And since it's another half hour, the next mark is the 15-minute mark, right? And then that'll ease out those waves basically. And I know most of the time you have the turnaround, but still you can see, okay, how's the wind reacting? Is it just side wind? Then you can go with the regular thing, and regular timing and pacing strategy. If you need to fight against the wind, well, yeah, if it's a really strong wind, you need to put the effort in at that point, because on the other way around, probably you'll reach max cadence before reaching the speed at some point, right? So just try to get the wave slower. Having a VO2 effort at the end